You ever have that moment where the world tilts a little and you realize you didn't actually know the people living next door? That's where this story begins. 6 months ago, my husband took a job as an apprentice with our neighbor. He'd been laid off, like so many of us have been at one point, and this was a practical choice. The neighbor runs a small business, needed help, and my husband needed a paycheck. So he stepped up. At first, the job seemed fine. Quiet mornings, tools, simple tasks, learning on the fly. My husband came home tired, but proud. He likes to do a job well. I remember him talking about little wins, the kind of small victories that make a man feel decent again after being out of work. Then the mood shifted. The neighbor, the boss, started changing. Small things at first, a sharp word here, a sneer there, but those little cuts became steady. He was combative. He started making racist remarks. He rained on every question my husband asked, acting like any learning was an offense. He lectured him about religion, about how one should live, about who was right and who was wrong. It felt like he was trying to squeeze my husband into some mold that he didn't fit. One day, for reasons I'll never understand, he asked my husband who he voted for on election day, in the middle of work. My husband answered honestly. That should have been the end of it. Instead, the boss seized on the answer like it was a justification to harass him, to tell customers about it, to shame him in front of people. Imagine showing up to a job where you want to learn, where you want to rebuild your footing, and the person you're learning from uses you as their punching bag. Not just with the work, but with everything that makes you, your beliefs, your identity. His comments weren't subtle. He was openly homophobic, openly racist, and he didn't care who heard. Things boiled over. My husband and another apprentice were berated for asking normal work questions. The other apprentice, a good kid who called once to say he was running late, was suddenly fired, not for performance, but for annoyance. My husband, exhausted from the daily poison, walked away. He quit. I thought that would be the end of it. We packed away the bad week, he took a breath, and we moved on. We tried to forget the sour taste of being belittled for simply being. That's where I was wrong. A week after he quit, another kind of wound surfaced. I learned, not from him, not from the guy we'd been neighborly with for years, but from a friend, from gossip, from the ugly way resentment finds a mouth. The neighbor had been talking about me, behind my back. He called me names. He called me a skank, a whore. He joked to customers about our marriage. He painted me as the problem. He took the hurt he felt from my husband and aimed it at me. Let me be blunt. It hurt. Deeply. It felt like someone had taken a file and began scraping away at who I thought I was. I hadn't interfered. I had been the good neighbor, the smile, the borrowed sugar, the friendly wave. And yet here I was, being used as the target of spite. I'll admit something. For the first time in my life, I wanted revenge. Now, before you picture anything dramatic, fights in driveways or midnight sabotage, I have to be clear. I don't want to break the law. I don't want to become the person who escalates neighbor drama into violence or ruin. That's not who I am. But if I'm honest, fantasizing about clever, harmless payback helped me process what felt like a violation. So let me take you through how it played out. The raw feelings, the temptation, and then the smarter, safer choices I made. If you've ever wanted to get back at someone who stabbed you in the back with words, this one is for you. Okay, the fantasy version. I imagine a montage. I start a community bake sale and every single pie has a tiny printed note inside that says, "Kindness costs zero. Zero, zero, zero." The neighbor proudly announces his attendance on social media, showing up in his best shirt, only to find that the whole community is there, smiling, buying pies, and donating to a charity he publicly disdains. He tries to complain, but suddenly his rude comments come back to him in the form of the entire block walking past his shop, ignoring him. Or my favorite little scene, I sign up to run a free How to Support Unemployed Neighbors class at the community center. The flyers go out and everyone in the neighborhood comes, including his customers. I deliver the class with calm dignity, share resources, and at the end, I hand out a list of reliable local employers, including ones that hire with respect. He watches from the back, his mouth foaming with embarrassment. Harsh? Maybe. Funny? Absolutely. See, that fantasy is harmless. No threats, no property damage, just dignity restored, and community attention redirected toward good. It felt satisfying, a clean, legal kind of win. The real road I chose. After the initial shock, I took a deep breath. If I wanted to handle this the way a person with some backbone and a conscience should, I needed a plan. Not revenge for the joy of hurting, but protection, accountability, and reclaiming my dignity. Here's what I did, and what I'd recommend to anyone facing the same kind of neighborly nightmare. 1. Document everything. I started writing down dates, times, what was said. My husband wrote down the comments and incidents at work. If it escalated, we would have a record. That step alone felt like a small reclaiming of control. 2. Talk to my husband, honestly. We had a serious conversation about how this made both of us feel. It wasn't about pointing fingers. It was about setting boundaries. We agreed to avoid confrontation, to not respond with loud social media posts or public shaming. That's drama. Drama can come back and bite you. 3. Boundaries. We stopped being available on the neighbor's terms. No more friendly drop-bys while he was in a mood. We kept interactions polite, brief, and in public. He had no power to drag us into his personal agenda if we refused to take the bait. 4. Community leverage. Legally. We quietly checked local laws on workplace harassment. What the boss had done to my husband sounded close to labor violations. If we needed to, there was a path to report him to appropriate authorities. Before we did anything, though, we talked to a local employment attorney for a consultation. That alone sent a message. We were prepared to defend ourselves. 5. Reputation restoration. Instead of attacking, we rebuilt. My husband took a different apprenticeship with a respectful employer who valued him. He volunteered some time with a local veterans group and started getting references. We let our actions speak. Service, reliability, kindness. When the neighbor tried to smear us, people who mattered already knew the truth. 6. Humor as medicine. I kept the fantasy in my back pocket. It was a pressure valve. I shared the ridiculous parts with friends. We laughed. We ate pie. Laughter didn't fix everything, but it kept me human. And you know what? Over time, the neighbor's words dulled. People see the whole person, not the rumor. When someone talks trash, it will stick to short-sighted listeners. The rest of the block, the people who mattered, saw us working, being decent, and moving forward. That felt better than any revenge that would have made me lose sleep. If you're thinking revenge, think safer, smarter, kinder. If you're hurting, and your first instinct is to pay someone back, I get it. That fire is human. But before you act, breathe and ask, will this make my life better or worse? Will it force me to be someone I don't like? If you want a real win, try these legal zero-harm strategies. Document everything. Keep a log, collect witnesses, check local workplace laws. Harassment is serious. Build your own positive narrative. Volunteer, join community groups, strengthen your reputation. Use official channels. File a complaint with workplace authorities or small claims court if necessary. Consider small acts of visible dignity. Hold a community bake sale, a charity drive, or free workshop. Let your integrity be louder than their insults. Protect your mental health. Therapy, friends, and good sleep make you stronger than any petty victory. Final thoughts. Why I didn't become a monster. I'll end with honesty. There were nights I fantasized about humiliating him. There were mornings I wanted to print t-shirts. But the truth is simple. If you enact vengeance that is cruel or illegal, you change the story. You stop being the person who was hurt and become someone else. So I chose dignity, documentation, action through the right channels, and yes, a pie sale that emptied his arrogance and filled a shelter. Are we vindicated? Not with fireworks, but with quiet, lasting things. Peace, stability, and the knowledge we handled it like adults. If you're living through something similar, you have my applause. Take a breath. Make a plan. And if you want me to share more harmless, community-based revenge ideas, the kind that turn the tables without breaking the law, I've got a list. Thanks for listening. If this story hit home, share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. And if you want the fantasy pie sale scene turned into a short script, DM me. I'll write it for your next vid.